What's going on, guys? Today I have a very exciting video for you. We're going to be talking about Alibaba stock, and specifically there's been a little bit of news. I went digging a little bit. There's an article that came out a couple weeks ago about some rumors around the audits that have been going on in China. So I wanted to dive into that a little bit in this video, see what news, what rumors are coming out of China about how those are going, and then we'll actually take a look at the Chinese situation, everything that's going on that's gone bad for them over the last year, and then kind of how we're potentially maybe turning a corner. We'll take a look at that. And then finally, we're going to take a look at some interesting data out of the US that I believe is going to have an impact in China. So if you enjoyed the video, make sure you drop a like down below. And if you want to see more videos like this one, make sure you hit that sub button. Let's start off by taking a look at Alibaba's charts. So they were down almost 4% here today. Over the last 5 days, down over 8%. Last month, they are up over 15%. So that is a huge move up. A lot of positive news kind of coming around the stock about potentially reopening and things like that. And we can see here, they went from around $64 all the way up to around $84, and then they've retraced a little bit and hit this support again that's around $75. And if we jump back, we can see that $75 was a previous kind of support range. If you believe in technical analysis, there's still a few other barriers. They have the $80 range kind of in here. They have the $90 range all through here, which appears to be a relatively strong area of support for the stock, and then $100 somewhere in here. Personally, I'm not a big fan of technical analysis. I think, a stock like Alibaba that's been beaten down on a lot of news, it's going to rely a lot more on news to get the stock moving up to some of these ranges. These are just ranges to where the stock could level out at. The biggest range, if you jump back a year, it seems like around $100 to $120. If they can get back above $100, they'll probably find a lot of support in that range. So that will be interesting. Hopefully that we can get some news coming out that can boost the stock up to that range. This is the article that I wanted to take a look at here today that's kind of discussing some of the audit findings. So US watchdog gained good access to audits of Chinese firms. And we kind of have that statement reiterated here. So US regulators gained good access in the review of auditing work done on New York listed Chinese firms during their 7-week inspection, 4 sources with knowledge of the matter said. So it's very important to kind of note this last statement in here, that 4 sources with the knowledge of the matter said. Basically, at this point, these are all rumors. So it's good to kind of get an understanding of what the rumors are behind the scenes, because obviously if there's a bunch of negative rumors coming out about these audits, then that would kind of lean towards potentially, some bad things going on. But right now, it sounds like from everything I've seen, there's only been positive news that the auditors have gotten access to the documents that they've wanted. They've, basically been able to review them at their own pace and kind of look over all this information. And there's nothing that's warranted, any serious issues that have came out about it. You kind of expect if, they got into the books and they were looking at like what could be fraud, that there could be a lot of concerns and a lot of rumors kind of spilling out from some of these officials. But so far, again, it's only been relatively positive things. And that's kind of re-emphasized here. So we have this second comment. So sources, however, caution that the broader review of the work done by Hong Kong and China-based auditors was ongoing, and that no decision had been taken on whether the dispute could be considered over. So again, important just to remember, these are rumors. So far, there's been positive news, which is good, but nothing definitive has been made by either side, either the US, China, anything like that. And one concern that I obviously have about these rumors is the amount of detail. So this comment here has the most amount of detail. And basically what it's saying is inspectors with the Public Company Accounting Oversight Board conducted the inspection in Hong Kong, gained all the information they requested, which is a very broad comment. There's nothing about, hey, they requested this document, this document, this document, and they were allowed to, view them and whatever. But there is this other comment here. So they were also allowed to print out some documents to more easily review information despite all initial hesitation from Chinese officials. So that is kind of a big step, and obviously a little bit more detail saying, hey, they were able to print some of these documents and hold them in their hands and look at them, which again, that would be a concern from a lot of Chinese, firms, because if they're able to print out these documents, that could potentially lead to, some of these auditors, putting them into their bag by either accident or however you want to look at it, and basically taking them out of China. So obviously the fact that they allowed them to print these documents out out is a big step. And again, that adds a little bit more detail to these rumors, which is also a positive thing. And the last comment here is basically about the pact being signed back in August. So they've really rushed through this whole auditing process. I mean, they signed the pact only a couple months ago and then got everyone out to China. I think it was in kind of September, and then kind of just lasted 7 weeks. And basically they've started to conclude a lot of those, audits over in China. They're going to have to go back and review a lot of the other companies. The biggest ones that they started off were with like Alibaba and JD and some of the other bigger companies in the US that have larger market caps. And now, they've started to conclude a lot of those. The big thing is going to be, they've announced that by the end of the year, the SEC is either going to give a thumbs up or a thumbs down to China. So that is really the news that is going to send the stock up potentially in a massive way. If again, the SEC comes out and says thumbs up, everything's good, Alibaba is good to stay listed, or if they give a thumbs down that, hey, it needs to be delisted, that's going to be a huge move to the downside. That will obviously affect the stock in a massive way. And potentially, there could be somewhere in between. There could be, hey, we are happy with this, but we want even more information. So if that happens, you could see the stock, trading sideways, potentially a little bit down, just because people want this news to be over with. They want kind of this delisting concern to be over with. And if there is still like ongoing concerns with it, then obviously that is going to put a little bit of fear in some of the Alibaba investors. So overall, hopefully the SEC comes out and, gives the green light, gives the thumbs up that Alibaba and these other Chinese companies are able to stay listed on the New York Stock Exchange. So with that, I wanted to talk a little bit about basically what Alibaba could do, in terms of stock price over the next few months, because it's very interesting. We've had a lot of the tables kind of turn on China. So things are starting to go in the right direction, it seems like, for a lot of these Chinese companies and for China's overall economy. And a lot of that is kind of backed, and turning that corner with President Xi meeting Joe Biden over the last couple of weeks. That's been seen as a good sign that potentially, the audits are going to go well, and potentially they both have vested interest in, making sure that that relationship goes well. And then overall, China has also started to turn a corner in terms of its real estate. They've been lowering their interest rates by basically their government interest rates to try and get money back into their economy. So that's another huge stepping stone for them. And then finally, they've started to lift some of their policies on zero pandemic. So that's been huge as well, and been huge for investors, basically looking at China, seeing a lot of these zero pandemic policies hurting the GDP over the last kind of year to 2 years. And now we're finally potentially getting over that. China has kind of set a re-entry date of, next spring sometime, kind of, I think sometime around March is where the date was actually set to, where they want to see a lot of people getting vaccinated. And then basically, if they can get some of those numbers up, they're anticipating that they could kind of step away from those zero pandemic policies. So overall, a lot of things in China starting to turn a corner. And obviously, investors are going to react in a very positive way if we start seeing these things actually translate to, business growth, but even just more sentiment, around Chinese stocks becoming, more positive. That's going to have a huge impact on the stock, especially in an industry that's been the worst hit over this year. If you actually look at Chinese stocks, over the last year, they have been down the highest amongst basically any stocks in the market, especially Chinese tech firms, because we've seen, US tech get hit in a massive way. And now China, with their delisting concerns and other concerns, they've been hit even worse. So a lot of what that means is, if you start getting positive news around stocks that have been beaten down in a very massive way, the stocks can run up very quickly in a very short amount of time. So it'll be interesting over the next, maybe 3 to 4 months, if we start seeing a lot of these things turn around, how much a lot of these Chinese firms and stocks will actually run up in price. The last thing that I wanted to discuss here was this, and it's Black Friday online sales topped $9 billion in a new record. So they were actually recorded at $9.12 billion on Black Friday, and basically being up 2.3% year over year. And what's important is this is a year where a lot of people expected sales to be down. They kind of looked at the economy, especially compared to 2021, which obviously was a very positive year, a lot of things going well. Interest rates at that that point, hadn't began to rise. They started rising, really at the start of this year. And basically, we're comparing year over year numbers, and we're seeing actually consumers spending more money. So that is absolutely massive. And the question is, how does this affect China? And the obvious answer is that a lot of these goods that are being sold in the US, if you look at the tag on the back of them, they all say made in China. And obviously, if you have a lot of goods being made in China, some of those dollars are going directly back to the Chinese economy, and they're going to impact China as well in a very massive way. A lot of the economies, a lot of the US and China especially, are very interconnected on, how well we do. So overall, if the US economy is doing well, we're going to see that relate to China. And then that's also going to affect businesses like Alibaba that support a lot of their manufacturing side and online, sales. So overall, this is going to have a positive effect on Alibaba as well. Probably not directly. We're not going to see consumers look at this number and say, oh, I need to buy Alibaba stock because, we sold $9 billion in online sales. It's more going to be something that down the line, maybe first quarter of next year, we could see a hike in Alibaba's basically revenue and EPS numbers. And that could relate to, an upward move in Alibaba stock. We went over a lot of good information in this video. And basically what it seems like is Alibaba needs some good news to come back into the market. We kind of saw something over the last couple weeks or so, where some rumors came out about basically the zero pandemic policy going away. And that obviously sent the stock up in a very positive way. We saw almost 15% over the last month. And if we get a few more of those, especially if we see the delisting concern go away, we could see the stock move up, in my opinion, in a very massive way, get back to maybe this $100 mark, which I think would be a very good positive thing. So overall, I hope you enjoyed the video. Obviously, I'm just some guy on the internet. Do your own research. Make sure you're looking into these stocks. Do not just take my word and look at these stocks and purchase them blindly. Do your own research. That is super important for learning long-term about becoming a long-term investor in the stock market. So overall, I hope you guys did enjoy the video. If you did, make sure you drop a like down below. And if you want to see more videos like this one, make sure you hit that sub button. And as always, guys, have a wonderful rest of your day.